And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Next Round Sports. We're back again after a week off. I had a little internet problem here at the house. Believe it or not, a wasp nest is the reason why we
Right.
didn't broadcast last week. Apparently,
Very
the
surprising. But yep.
internet line attracts wasps, and the guy that installed it, that I'm nuts, didn't seal up the holes. He really didn't seem to care what he was doing, which
Yeah.
caused us to miss out a week. So apologies there. But we're back this week. This is Chris Porter here with Caleb Culver and Jeff Amos. As always, how you doing tonight, gentlemen?
Good, good, good.
You've been better. You've been better. But we'll get
He's
into
already
that.
pressing the red button. Already pressing the red button.
Well, before we go ahead and get into our first topic, the NFL and everything that happened here in this past week three, we're just going to browse real quick into the previous week, into week two. And we'll go ahead and start, Caleb, with your Ravens losing 26-23 to the
Inexcusable.
Oakland Raiders.
Inexcusable. You got a 10-point lead going into the fourth quarter, and you just a collection of errors. I mean, start with a 20-yard punt to allow them to get back in it for the game-winning score. Doesn't help. Harbaugh being basically a people pleaser. It's like, oh, we're not going to rush Derrick Henry 20 times a game. We're only going to do it 18 instead of as many as we did it last time. I think you might be tuning into the people too much because he also made two bonehead calls on the challenges and lost his timeouts in the last half in the first quarter too. It's like, what are you doing? We can tell that's not going to win, but you're going by what the crowd says. Just stop it, Harbaugh. So I'm thinking it might be better for us in the playoffs if we're on the road, so he doesn't have to listen to the fans try to make him do something stupid. Maybe we might be better then, but the loss is simply inexcusable. You can't lose that game, especially when you've got a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter.
Also, too, I think a really big play in that. I mean, to me, I go back in that game. I think about just how Gardner Minshew was able to play basically pitch and catch with Devontae Adams and Brock Bowers to make it 23-23. And then when the Ravens finally got a stop, they got pass interference on Brandon Stevens, and then that allowed them to tie the game when they had first and goal into one. And then, as you alluded to, you had the horrible punt by Stout, and then that let the Raiders go down and score the field goal. But I think that drive to make it to tie it 23-23, that was absolutely
the Ravens' run defense is still looking as solid as ever, but that pass defense, it has not looked especially sharp.
And we'll get into this when we talk about because we'll be talking a lot about the Ravens Cowboys game.
Yes, we will.
The Ravens really haven't been tested, I don't think, yet as far as their run defense. So
no, you could argue that, but the Chiefs had Isaiah Pacheco. I'm saying his name horribly wrong.
Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah, Pacheco. So, I mean, he's a good running back in my opinion. So I think that was a decent test, and he was held fairly well. Raiders, obviously, not so much, and we could say the same for the next team, which we'll get into more later. So, I mean, I think we had a decent test with the Chiefs, and we held them. So,
well, another close game was the Chiefs going against Cincinnati, to which you were already, slinging yourself off the edge already at that point. But
right.
25-26, very, very close game there against the defending champions.
Right. And then, that the play that everyone's going to be talking about, and I think a play that, at this point has defined the season is the pass interference call on Anthony. That won the Chiefs the game. And I think you have to wonder. I'm not. I think it was technically probably the right call. The issue, though, is why do you have the 7th round rookie corner out in that situation? Why is he playing in that situation? I think that's fair to question, and that goes back to the defensive play calling, which again we'll talk about later on for the Bengals and the lack of personnel. But yeah, that pass interference penalty was just absolutely critical on Dejon Anthony, and also too many times, and again a theme that we'll talk about for week 3 too, just lack of red zone scoring. They've shown the capability of driving and moving the ball, but they come away with field goals when they get into the red zone, or when they're just missing out on the red zone. The lack of the running game has been disappointing so far. We were led to believe that it would be a pretty even mix of Chase Brown and Zach Moss, but then really Zach Moss has got the majority of the carries, and he really hasn't lived up to his billing as of yet.
You're true. And I've got to throw your run defense under the bus and throw it hard.
Oh no, we'll get into that.
But like Patriots and then the Chiefs, like can't stop the run. It's going to be a long season.
Well, yeah, it's because, for one, your defensive line is decimated due to injuries, but second, even before the injuries, this was at best a subpar run defense. So, and then on the injuries, it makes it frankly historically bad. But just in terms of the Chiefs game, really that pass interference was critical, and just lack of cashing in on drives to where you could have got the full 7.
Yeah.
If we want to talk about historically bad run defense, let's talk right now about Cowboys and the Saints. 44-19.
Who dat?
I was so happy that I was at the Pirate Kansas City game and barely could watch this game because it was just unwatchable. It was putrid. I just kept up with it. 4 touchdowns for Alvin Kamara. When was the last time he got 4 touchdowns? When was the last time?
About like 4 years
before
ago.
COVID.
Like he won't do anything the whole rest of the season. But yes, against the Cowboys, after they made Cleveland look terrible, but now we realize Cleveland is probably the worst team in the league because they are just atrocious. Yes. But right next to them is the Cowboys because they looked. It was abuse. It was abuse. 190 rush yards they gave up in that game. Just in that game alone, Kamara 4 touchdowns. You made Derek Carr look like fucking primetime Drew Brees. Just absurd.
Yeah, that's not a good way to start out 14-3 and was it 21-3 at one point at home?
Yes, 21-3. You're at home. But you had a great record at home. You lost to Green Bay last year in the playoffs, but just absurd. Just you know what? And let's continue on with the. I'm done talking about that game. You already know how absurd that was. But to continue talking about that this last week.
Speaking of bad run defense again, it sneaks up on you. I hate to say it, but the Cowboys and the Bengals have absolutely no run defense.
Putrid, and there's no reason why it should be that bad. But then again, what did they not
do?
Well,
I've heard different things.
They didn't sign anyone.
Yeah, they didn't sign anybody at all. And Mike Zimmer's got a different system. He likes big guys, but Dan Quinn likes small, speedy guys. So you don't really have the personnel supposedly for the Zimmer system.
I don't.
But
I don't buy
at the same time, I think it's more players.
The players that you have, especially when you come in as a new coordinator, you have to coach to the players that you have. You can't just sit there like, oh well, I don't have the right guys. We can't do it. That's bullshit. You came in here to do this, so figure out a way to work with what you have.
Yeah,
and I agree with 274 rushing yards to Baltimore is not doing it. That's absurd.
They gave up like almost 300 yards in the first half total. Between passing and rushing. It's like
abuse.
Yeah. Though they almost gave me a heart attack in that second half. I don't know what it is about the Ravens in the second half, but we're just going to allow any team to come back, apparently, because we had
as you said earlier, you don't trust their pass defense. You don't trust their pass defense, and Dak was able to start airing it out. Although
He got a little
CD
bit.
was
And I mean, the
absurdly
onside
you know,
kick, which
blamed
I
him.
didn't actually think would be a thing anymore, helped y'all out when y'all actually got the onside kick.
Yeah, I was very
So
surprised. I was taken aback by that because I thought with this new kickoff system, which is absurd and it needs to
Yeah.
go away. Like they
and
should just
Justin Tucker
do a
also missing
referendum
a
half
46-yard kick
right now.
this time.
Get rid of it. It's
Like
just-
Justin Tucker is woes continue too.
I hate
So,
the new
yeah,
kickoff
he
rules.
might be done. And I like
Yeah.
Justin Tucker, but
Yeah,
I
he
think
just
he
would
may
be
be-
number
he's a cool
13
dude, but yeah,
Justin Tucker.
he's starting to you got to start questioning shit, at least at this point.
he's no Brandon
it's not
Aubrey right
just-
now.
No.
He's I
With
mean,
65 yards in that game, the first 3 points you put up.
Brandon Aubrey
The
is
only 3
probably
points you
the
had until
only
the fourth quarter.
he is the only bright star that I will say came out of that game is Brandon Aubrey. And Brandon
He's
Aubrey's
the
got
Cowboys' best player.
yes. And he's got a huge fan base down in Dallas too. People are buying his jersey up and left and right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they should because he's the only one on the team that can actually do anything because we already know Dak can't. I've already made that clear since last year.
Yeah.
He can throw the ball around.
Now, the
whenever-
Ravens, it was weird too. The
throw
Ravens
the- he
defense
can
was
throw the ball
really
around
sticky,
in
and
the
their
game
pass
was pretty
defense
out of
was
hand.
good. Yeah, I mean, they cut off CeeDee Lamb, so he threw the ball around. Good for Dak. They weren't matriculating the ball down the field, I guess, as the old Chiefs coach used to say. It wasn't moving forward. They would always get stopped and have some drive-ending play where it's a drop pass. Or according to Tom Brady, the throws were not very good. He graded him a D and a C a couple of times on third down, according to Tom Brady's new throwing metric that he wanted to throw out this week.
Of course, yeah. He's got to have his shtick.
Right.
Yeah.
Which
and
wasn't
Brady's
bad,
his-
but yeah.
his
I just
great
got to know.
throws.
Okay, when are the Cowboys going to go ahead and call up Dalvin Cook? Like, what else do you have to wait for? Because no one could do anything.
Yeah.
I was
You
talking
have
with
to
Joel.
try something like who cares at this point?
Well, I was
You
talking with
cannot
Joel this whole
run the
time.
fucking football.
They're running Deuce Vaughn right up the middle. And then they run Rico Dowdle right out the outside. I'm sorry, Dowdle is the bigger guy. You need to be running him in between the tackles and the guards and have him run up the middle and take your small speed guy and run around the outside. I mean, come on. We're just fans, and that's completely like get your speedy guy out there. You don't run him right down in there in the middle with the big guys. That is completely atrocious. Like, what are you freaking doing, McCarthy? That is absolute bullshit. When you know it's not going to work, get your speedy guy to the outside where he can be out.
And
running.
honestly,
You know,
I see this two
impact.
players like it looks like a
Yeah.
lame duck coaching year. Yeah. As well. Like the players are not
Because-
disciplined. They're just like, I don't care. This guy's not going to be here. Screw it.
Well, once you get to that point where everybody's playing for themselves and the coaches, are just trying to, help their thing along, there's no coming back from that. Now, I had a feeling that would probably happen, but it would happen probably like week 10, not week 3.
Right.
Week 3 is
Mhm.
not what I wanted this to happen. I knew it was going to happen. I just wanted to at least wait till 10, but no, it's already fallen apart. And that just shows Mike McCarthy wasn't the guy.
Which
Yeah, but also
been
at the
saying
same
that for
time,
years.
I know. It's like,
but at the
duh.
same time,
I saw
you know,
Belichick.
again,
The Belichick signal, I think, has gone up in Dallas from some of the stuff I've seen.
Oh, it has.
They
It
want
has.
Bill.
but-
They want
but,
Bill.
I mean, we'll play the song and dance, but we know why it is what it is. It's just like why the Bengals are the way they are. It's because the owners, the general manager, and Jerry Jones flat out lied to the public after the game that they couldn't afford Derrick Henry. Dude, that's
Yeah.
a flat out lie. He could have easily.
And he lied
afforded
again when he
Derrick
said we're
Henry.
all in. You didn't sign anybody.
Yes.
That doesn't even
No.
mean anything.
Exactly.
No,
It's useless
It,
word.
it didn't mean absolutely anything. And see, and that brings up, just to kind of jump ahead a little bit. We're shooting this here on Tuesday. On Thursday, Cowboys and Giants. Cowboys up in
Mhm.
East Rutherford to take on the Giants. You know what? Because of the way that Jerry Jones has misled the fan base this entire offseason, I hope they lose to the Giants. I want this to completely blow up in his face. I've had it. This is bullshit. You sit here and gaslit us the entire time. Oh no, this is fine. You're underestimating our run offense. So you're underestimating what this is. You don't really know what's going on here. We know what's going on here. No, I want this to completely blow up in his face. And I've been hearing rumors coming around of different pundits coming out saying maybe that they're looking at selling the team. Well, if they're going to
No.
sell the team, why would they
Yeah.
sell it while it's spiraling down. No, you want to sell it when it's high.
You
So I
do,
don't
but
believe any of that right there. And I never believed Jerry would sell a team. Now, after Jerry passes, would I be surprised if maybe Steven sold the team? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be surprised if the kids sold
that's
the team.
not when it's currently worth billions of dollars.
Yeah, if it the money they could get for it, Jones family's Steven's 3 great grandkids would be set with the money they can make for selling, because it is the most profitable sports franchise. Period. So I mean, they would make ungodly money. Ungodly
the thing
money.
is, like, buying an NFL team is the biggest surefire investment there is. It's guaranteed to make money. So the Cowboys are worth probably $11 billion now. You could probably, you could sell it for double that, and you'll still make money at the end of the day.
Oh, what they would make off that is absurd. But I just don't see Jerry ever selling it. It's his baby.
And I don't think Steven will either.
I don't think they will either. I think they'll keep it.
100%.
But I've said for years, nothing will ever change until Jerry passes on, because he's not going to give up relinquish control until he passes. They're just that's just the situation I am in as a Cowboy fan, is you just have to deal with Jerry, and it's not going to change. So people who get mad at Jerry, oh, he did this. You know it's going to happen. He's not.
Oh, sure. It just takes a little longer in the season, because we go through this exercise with Dallas where a game is it's so flagrant that it's Jerry's fault that you just can't help but not say it. We usually get to like week 8 or 9 or 10.
Yeah, they're already calling for his head now on the radio stations. Jerry Jones says, "Yes, that's very acceptable. This is my fault."
Well, it doesn't.
Besides talking about players' junk size with Jamie Foxx.
Yes.
But
he's discrediting that. But he did come out on 105.3 The Fan, Sean and RJ, and this morning, and definitely said it is my fault.
Yeah,
it's good. He needs to admit it, because it is his fault.
Yeah, the problem is he does the same dance every year too. It's my fault. Next year we're going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, he's got to wait for the other leaves to fall.
But I think,
my bad.
I'm kind of in the same boat you are, Chris. It's just like, if they lose to the Giants, then you have at Pittsburgh, who's undefeated, and then you have
that is surprising,
the defending
right?
NFC.
Yeah,
it is shocking. And then you have defending.
We'll talk
NFC
about that in a minute, because I've got some things I want to talk about.
Well, we'll need to. We'll have to throw the whole AFC North in its own little discussion. But I think the Cowboys will probably beat the Giants, though, because the Giants don't have a run game. So you're just depending on Daniel Jones to win you games.
Well, I think Devin Singletary. I don't. Forgive me for jumping ahead here, but I think Devin Singletary is probably one of the bright spots for the Giants this year.
He looked really good against Cleveland.
And
good.
But that, again, that's Cleveland.
Yeah, but
the Cowboys looked really good. Zeke Elliott looked pretty good against Cleveland.
Well, I don't think the defense is the issue in Cleveland. Deshaun Watson is the issue for Cleveland.
Deshaun Watson is the issue. He is completely done, and he is bringing that entire franchise down with him.
Yes, 100%.
And it makes me happy of what they gave up for him, that they're completely, torpedoing down because of it.
Yeah, me and Jeff, as AFC North fans, were just like, "Yep, that's okay. You can trade for Deshaun Watson for all that capital and the stupid contract you had him sign. Go for it, Cleveland."
Unbelievable.
And he was accused of another sexual assault. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I wonder I wonder if
him and P Diddy, man.
I wonder if the Browns let that story loose, maybe trying to get out of some money that they.
I wouldn't be surprised.
That's a good point. Yeah,
I would not be surprised about that.
While we're in the AFC North, I guess should we shift over to the Bengals game so we don't beat the Cowboys like a dead horse anymore?
Sure.
They deserve to be beat as much as possible, because they're going to get beat again and again and again this year.
I told you, I'm not sure how the Cowboys make the playoffs this year.
Oh, I didn't. I didn't disagree with you, but I told you I was going to be optimistic as long as I could. And I've made it to week 2.
Congratulations.
So that's about as far as my optimism went.
That's longer than Jeff made it, I think, for his team.
Yeah,
Anyways,
I had serious
yes.
doubt after week 1, and I mean, I don't think it's. I mean, the season is just about. I mean, it's done at this point. 2.5% of teams in the NFL that started off 0-3 have made the playoffs, and I don't see anything different for the Bengals. You literally could not stop Washington at all.
Jaden Daniels was killing you.
They had 5 touchdowns, 1 field goal, obviously no punts. And this is coming from Cam Taylor-Britt, who earlier in the week said college offense. Well, and then he just can't help, run his mouth because he got burned by the Chiefs when he's running his mouth. But I mean, it's just top to bottom a collective failure. This goes to coaching. This goes to Duke Tobin, who's the de facto general manager, the Will McClay, if you will, of the Bengals. And this goes back to Mike Brown and the ownership.
It doesn't help that Orlando Brown had to be carted off.
Well, that was Trent Brown, not Orlando.
Trent Brown. Excuse me.
But yeah, I mean, I hope
you think Zach Taylor makes it the season?
Yes, because this is the problem.
Yeah, he was calling stupid plays.
No, but this is the problem, though. Mike Brown signed his extension through 2026. Mike Brown does not fire anyone until he has to, which will be 2026.
Okay, worst case scenario, you go 0-10. You think he doesn't get that seat doesn't get really hot?
No.
I don't know. That'd be pretty hot for a team that came in with Super Bowl expectations.
Yeah,
I think
so.
Maybe if
the Ravens are
2025 starting
or
that
1-2,
maybe. But Zach Taylor literally can do. I mean, he could win 2 or 3 games this year. He's going to save his job. I think the only guy that you could perhaps think about losing their job is their defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo. But I don't think it's completely his fault. I mean, the thing is that this defense, grossly overachieved in 21 and 22, and they started to be exposed last year with giving up the big.
Well, you've also lost a couple of free agents too.
Well,
like you said, as well as injuries this year.
Right, and then the run defense again was already below average to subpar at best, and then you have injuries on top of it. I mean, you're not just bad, you're historically bad. I believe the Bengals gave up somewhere along the lines of a little over 6 yards per play, which is a franchise record. The last time they gave up close to that amount, I believe, was somewhere in the neighborhood of 5.8 against the Saints in 2018. The result of that performance was Marvin Lewis firing defensive coordinator Terrell Austin at the time, right after the game. Lou Anarumo's not going to be fired after this game, but I think, that there's a very solid chance if we don't see improvement, then he has a great chance of losing his job just because, the mistakes are just repetitive over and over again. And there's just no excuse to where you let a rookie quarterback run all over you and let Cliff
Kingsbury. There's a lot of like Nate Wiggins trying to guard CeeDee Lamb. These things don't end well when you put them on your top receiver.
And I think what's frustrating is that you went against Cliff Kingsbury last year or 2 years ago. I mean, you went against a very similar offense, and you had no issue stopping it. And then now you can't stop that same offense with arguably worse personnel. There's just no excuse for it. And then obviously you have the whole contract distractions with not only Jamar Chase, but with T. Higgins now going on over 2 years. Look, T. Higgins, we know he's gone, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that Jamar Chase is gone either. Because who's to say that, the Bengals, maybe they'll offer him a contract at the end of the year.
They'd have to do it in the CD Lamb range now.
Well, the issue is that you're going to have to pay him more, and who's to say that Jamar Chase is going to for sure sign? Maybe, but maybe not. I mean, if you go 5-12 and you have a better team calling you, and
does he want to be the next AJ Green and just waste his career away there?
Right. I wouldn't. You have Joe Burrow there, and again, this goes back to
this is college bud though.
No, but this is what I said at the time after the Super Bowl is that will they do right by Joe Burrow? The answer is no. Yes, they paid him, but if you're not going to pay anyone else, you did a decent job a couple years ago.
You got to have a supporting cast. It can't just be done with the QB.
Right, and you just can't. I mean, you did a solid job, making the offensive line competitive, but again, that's still an issue in my opinion. I don't think the offensive line is particularly great. I think it's probably average. But then if you're not going to sign, in my opinion, the best wide receiver in franchise history to a contract, then I'm sorry. I just don't, to win at a high level, you have to pay money. And Mike Brown would rather go this route of
he wants to be the Clippers, basically. Is that what you're trying to call him?
100%. This is what Mike Brown has done the entirety of his career, and it will not change. That philosophy will not change. Just like Jerry will not change. Mike Brown will not change. I always say to people like, "Oh, you deal with Jerry." And yes, I'm one of the people that complain about Jerry, but there's always a worse owner than your team. And
Jerry Jones is pretty high. I don't think your owner's is bad.
Yes, he is. At least Jerry does pay, albeit late.
Not this offseason.
Wasted the last second to do it.
Yeah.
But he pays.
Last leave to fall.
At least he pays.
Yeah.
But again, we'll go through. It's the same song and dance, just like the Cowboys. It's the same thing year after year after year. It's just the Bengals got lucky and just had no choice but not to draft Joe Burrow, and they took advantage of it for a couple years, and their window was 2 years, and they missed out. So it's back to historic Bengals
to reality.
Yeah, really back to reality. And until you start paying people and committing to Joe Burrow and trying to build a good team around him, the results are going to be 5-12, 6-11 to what we've been accustomed to in the past. And it's sad.
It gets you on a happy note. They do have Carolina coming up this next week.
Right.
But how do you feel against the Red Rocket?
Red Rocket.
Right.
And Andy Dalton beat his old team.
And I really thought Carolina was going to beat the Raiders. I was not surprised in the least because I thought Andy Dalton would be ready to go, and I don't think the Raiders are a very
Bryce
good
Young
team. And I think Bryce Young is just completely shell-shocked at this point. But sure, I think the Panthers have a great chance of beating the Bengals. And look, Andy Dalton, regardless of how I felt about him and how many times I feel like he let the team down. He's still a decent player, and he's a really good dude. So I mean, if he beats the Bengals on Saturday or on Sunday rather, kudos to him. I mean, I hope a part of me hopes that it happens at this point because the season, for all intents and purposes, is over.
So this is why we can't give you the red button. I don't think it's quite over yet. You lost
Yes,
to the
it-
Chiefs. That sucks. It was
Okay,
a close
but
game. You gave them a
Caleb-
close game. That's
Okay,
playoff competition.
Caleb, what?
I
Caleb,
know.
what
Hold on. Let me finish. I understand you got run over by the Patriots. That's supposed to be one of the worst teams in the league.
Because they
Same
are.
with the Washington Redskins, and we know your run defense does suck. It has been verified at this point that it does suck. But you've only gone against one playoff caliber team, and you did pretty dang good against them.
Okay, but
So if you could just make the playoffs, even if it's a wild card, now that there's 3, who knows what's going to happen?
again, 2.5. Like
he's
I
already
said, two
he's
and a
already
half,
planning on who to pick with the number 1 pick is what he's planning on right now.
2.5% of teams that started off 0-3 have made the playoffs. 2.5%, and
Well, I was worried about the Ravens too. I was like, I don't know. With the Ravens going against the Bills next week, I'll jump ahead a little bit, but
Yep.
with the
they're coming up
Ravens going against
Sunday
the
night.
Bills, like we could very well be 0-4 if we had lost that game to the Cowboys to start the season. And we might be 1-3, which is what I think is going to happen because we can't defend the pass.
Buffalo's been
and-
looking good. They're 3-0, and
I think they're a better
Josh
offense
Allen.
without Stephon Diggs.
well, that's just
I mean,
the thing.
him and Cook are
it's-
killing it.
that's not a
Kansas
ridiculous
City did.
argument at all. It's not a
I thought
ridiculous
the same
argument at
thing
all.
Kansas City did. Get rid of when Kansas City get rid of Tyreek
Yeah,
Hill. It's
get
like,
rid of
okay, who's
Tyreek.
going to do anything? And they've won 2 Super Bowls since then.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
Very
you
true.
get rid of you get rid of Stephon Diggs, but he was a cancer for them, and they are looking good. They're running the ball. They're playing great defense, and then you have Josh Allen throw 4
Yeah.
touchdowns in the first half.
He's done it 2 games, I think. Yeah. Well, not the first half, but he's thrown 4 touchdowns at least 2 games.
And James Cook has been arguably the best running back in the NFL.
I would say him or Barkley at this point.
Barkley's
Yeah.
looked really good, and that it does
But,
not make me
yeah.
happy at all.
Yeah, I mean,
No.
yeah,
They can't when
it's
Barkley-
Philadelphia
Barkley,
Eagles.
You could definitely.
But
Make
at
the
least
argument
Hurts
for
is got the same stats as Daniel Jones, pretty much. So Hurts still
Yeah.
sucks. But
I'm
yeah,
probably
so,
inflating James Cook too much because he's been good for my teams.
I say you're not wrong. Like I said, I'm very expecting the Ravens to be 1-3 by the time we finish this. And before we jump off the AFC North here, Steelers being 3-0 with Justin Fields to start the season. Najee Harris showing signs of life. Like, what is going on?
Their defense is
Defense.
playing outstanding.
They are, and granted, they've only had one team,
Fields
the
is
Chargers.
not-
I think that's a challenge.
Fields
But-
has not looked good. He has not looked good, but he's been the bus driver, which is all you need from him.
That's true.
And
Yeah,
it
with
is
these defenses.
unbelievable because TJ Watt is playing outside of his mind. The defense is playing outside of their mind, and they're keeping them in the game. And they're lucky that, the Chargers, I really thought that was a chance for them to lose. And they've been all over them. They've looked good. Denver, of course, I knew they were going to beat Denver, although Denver went into Tampa and
Yeah,
Wax.
surprised.
I have no
Heck,
idea
everybody.
what to say about that.
I have
Yeah.
no idea what to say about that game either,
Mhm.
but that's the thing. This with the Cowboys going in, if they lose to the Giants, going into the Steelers at home, the way the Steelers are playing, they're
Yeah.
not going to be able to do anything against the Steelers defense. The defense is too good, and Fields is doing just enough to get by, and Najee Harris will be able to get
That's the
running.
thing,
They'll
Najee
be able to
Harris
Yeah.
step
Well, that's
in
also why
and
Tomlin's
run
not
defense.
naming any starting QB.
There's no
at
reason
this
for
point.
Wilson to come in.
Yeah,
At this
well,
point.
I'm saying, Tomlin's just not even naming a QB right now. He's not
No,
betting
he's
his
named
house on
Fields.
field, like
Fields
you
is
said.
it.
He's being the bus driver. He's doing enough, but
He is, and until they go into like a real struggle session with Fields, Wilson's not going to see the field. Like, he's done. There's nothing. There's no reason to take him out. Fields has already built up some repertoire with the offense, that first team offense. There's no reason to bring Russell Wilson in. There's no reason at all. If you're already winning, what's the point? You don't make the change. And Tomlin's not dumb enough to do that.
Right.
I take this. I take that to a point. He would be if he had loyalty to Russell Wilson. If Russell Wilson was his guy, like if it was Roethlisberger, then yes, he would. But he has no loyalty to Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson just came in this year, same as Justin Fields. It was whoever's going to win it out.
And Russell Wilson got injured,
he got injured, and hey, that happens sometimes. And honestly, I will firmly believe Russell Wilson, if he's not retired, will be at a different team next year.
Yeah,
that's probably true.
If not retired, like you said. Also,
I think he'll be retired.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's pretty amazing with essentially no quarterback how productive George Pickens is as a wide receiver. I mean,
it's basically the same thing with the Redskins we were talking about last night. Scary Terry, man. When they showed the stat, he's had 11 different QBs.
And just consistently good.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, hats off to Pickens, like we said, though. I mean, he's just a good receiver. Really sad the Ravens missed on him.
He's still so young that he has potential that if they actually could get someone who could get him the ball more consistently and in the open, he could be one of the top receivers in the league.
Absolutely.
Easily.
Very true. Oh, and then kind of speaking of the Redskins a little bit too, it's surprising how accurate Jaden Daniels has been to start the season too. Like, he's got the rookie record right now. Now, will that hold up? Who knows? But he's got like an 80% accuracy rating.
Yeah, but I mean,
through 3 games,
he was given all the time in the world in the Bengals game. Yeah, still impressive.
Yes.
But I mean, with the exception of Tampa, I mean, I think you're going against a poor defensive line and the Giants, and then obviously a poor defensive line in the Bengals. 21 of 23 last night for Jaden Daniels in that game. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he's doing a hell of a lot better than what Caleb Williams has been doing so far.
Caleb Williams, garbage.
And well, we did say it was a bust. Now, Caleb Williams does have the most passing yards by any QB in a game, that 363 so far this year.
Nuts, by the way.
Really trying to catch up.
Drop in scoring.
Yeah. And I will give Caleb Williams this. He has no offensive line. So it's a little hard to pass when it's like running for your life.
Correct. He has no offensive line.
He's used to that. He's used to playing at USC.
So.
At USC, he's used to that.
Well, that's why he was crying on the sidelines.
Yes.
They were making fun of him for crying over there because he was getting sacked all the time.
And
also,
I will bring up the New York Jets and their stomping of the Patriots on Thursday night of last week. And they, after their second touchdown, the hug or almost hug between Saleh and Aaron Rodgers. Saleh went up to hug Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers pushed him away and gave him a look. And afterwards, Aaron Rodgers seemed to answer the question in third person when he asked about it. He goes, "Hey, what happened with that right there?" And he goes, "He doesn't like the hug."
That's just Aaron Rodgers being stupid and weird. Like, I'm going to go to my silent fucking retreat. Oh, I've got to go to Egypt now to meet with this guy.
He does. He's got to go smoke peyote in a cave.
I mean,
but yeah,
I tell you, look, keep an eye out on the Jets' running game because with Breece Hall and forgot his name, the rookie,
Braylon Allen,
Braylon Allen, the youngest player in the league, just at 20 years old, and Aaron Rodgers, the oldest player in the league, both on the same team. Allen and Hall, I think that is a strong running back tandem.
It's starting to get its feet. I mean, Hall's been fairly good for the start of the season to begin with.
His main thing is staying healthy. That's his main thing.
That's his goal for this
He'll
year.
have a good season, but Allen was running hard. That kid was going right at the middle, and he was laying his shoulder into people. Now, yeah, that's fun to watch. It's not very good for your career if you're a running back. But then again,
Yeah.
he is only 20 years old.
Right. He heals a little better than us old men.
And I think probably the thing to look forward to most if you're a Jets fan is Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers aren't even on the same page.
Yeah.
And they're
They-
still
They're not.
But they finally
they're
got their
still-
first touchdown of the year.
Yeah, they finally did that. And that was
Well, it took 3
it was
games.
it was a very short throw, but that
Mhm.
throw that Aaron Rodgers made, 80% of the guys that make that throw in the league, that's a pick six. That was such a great short throw by Rodgers. People don't understand how good that throw was.
Yeah.
Was
It's
it
crazy
just a
to go
random
back
dig
and
and
look.
dunk pass?
As much as you can make fun of Aaron Rodgers, it's still crazy to go back and look at the ratio he has between touchdowns and interceptions. He's the only guy with like a 4 point something. Even Patrick Mahomes only has like 3.6.
Well, yeah, I mean,
And that ratio,
year,
touchdowns,
I mean,
interceptions.
yeah, the year like a few years ago, I think it may have been the pandemic year where it was like he went 48 touchdowns and 5 picks. Like, who the
Yeah.
hell does that?
Something
That is-
stupid.
That's absolutely insane.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of the Jets, brings me a transition into the team that I think I'm most surprised about this year. And in 2 weeks, the Jets will be going over to London to face the Minnesota Vikings, who possibly could be at that time undefeated. Sam Darnold is looking really good. And I said before the season
Well, he's
started,
finally got some good weapons and a good system.
exactly like I was just trying to
Yeah,
say,
you
it's
did
Sam
call it.
Darnold. This is his seat. If he's going to do something, this is his year to do it because he has the best receiver he's ever thrown to, with Justin Jefferson,
And Jordan Addison's a good number 2 too when he's healthy.
and he's not going to jail.
No, that's for Sean Rice.
No, Jordan Addison's also possibly going to jail too.
Yeah, for his DUI that he got.
Exactly.
Oh,
But
Adding
He
Aaron
won't.
Jones, I thought, was such an underrated addition. Like I couldn't
another guy the
believe
Cowboys could have got.
the other guy the Cowboys should have got. I didn't want to get
yeah.
Henry. I was fine Henry leaving. I was okay with that. If they would have actually attempted to get Aaron Jones, that's what I wanted because he was the Cowboy killer.
Yes.
Yeah, true.
To me,
Multiple times.
bringing him in would have been like when they brought in Dion from San Francisco. You bring in the guy that's beating you. At least
It's
that's
like
what Jerry
Vlad Guerrero
Jones
coming to the Rangers back in like 2009,
The
2008.
Cowboys signed Charles Haley.
Yes.
Yeah, Deion Sanders.
Bring in the guy that beats you, the guy that beats your brains in. You brought him in. That's what Jerry used to do, but they didn't even try. And Aaron Jones is tearing it up for the Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
They're not missing Dalvin Cook at all right now. They're like, who? Madison left. It's Madison, right? Alexander Madison
Yeah,
left and went to the Raiders. They
he ain't doing
Who?
nothing.
who?
Yeah. Exactly.
No, Aaron Jones is tearing it up. Darnold's looking better than a bus driver. I think they thought, okay, we just got a bus driver here. He's looking better. This is what he needed, and they're looking really, really good. I was very surprised with I wouldn't be surprised if things stay consistent with them if they don't win the NFC North this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Love's injury right now. Yeah, that's
But
highly
Malik Willis
probable.
has looked good. Malik Willis has looked good.
I think it's
yeah.
I think it's time.
He's been all right.
Speaking of Malik Willis, I think
I'm
it's
not saying
time.
that he'll win it for him if he's the quarterback the whole time, but
Right.
he's looked good. That's what you would want from your backup.
I think
Very
it's
true.
time to start giving credit to Matt LaFleur with the way he can work with quarterbacks. He didn't get everyone just thought, oh well, he's coaching Aaron Rodgers. Of course, you're supposed to win with Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers. But then he turns around Jordan Love when people thought his career wasn't going to pan out.
Mhm.
And then he makes Malik Willis, who could even play in the NFL. Now he looks like a legitimate backup quarterback.
Yeah, it's like give Matt LaFleur a week and he'll be a QB whisperer and can drop a game plan.
But I think the key for the Vikings, they drafted JJ McCarthy. People obviously and rightfully so anticipate him to start then he goes down with the knee injury. And Sam Darnold, these guys that are picked number 3 in the draft, yeah, they don't always pan out, but he's shown flashes to why he was picked number 3. I'm not saying he was.
Well, there's a
worth
reason this is like the 15 that's decided to sign him and try him out. Because, like you said, he's shown those flashes of like, this is what he is, and this is what he can
and he
be.
has all the physical.
Like when he got drafted,
tools.
he has the physical attributes. There's, once he got out of Carolina, same thing with Baker. Maybe Bryce Young needs to get out now because it seems like everybody that leaves Carolina is able to go and have success.
Well, maybe we could trade. Maybe the Cowboys can trade Trey Lance for Bryce Young.
What do you? I have a hypothetical. What if the Dolphins trade for Bryce Young next year?
But the Tua concussion possibilities?
Yeah.
I think Tua's done.
It's highly possible.
He needs to
This
be.
is the second time we've seen him just.
I think
He needs to do
third
the
time.
Andrew Luck and be like, "Hey, for my health, my well-being in life."
He's made his money. He's made his money.
Yeah.
He has life-changing money.
Yeah, he got his major contract in the
kept it.
summer.
Like we said, the broke 30 for 30.
Well,
Hopefully he
he
hasn't been
just
crazy
got
with
his contract in July. He can't even blow it that quick. I don't know if anyone can.
If anybody
like
can,
he's
it's a
got-
football
It's
player.
not like he's got as many mouths to feed as Tyreek Hill does.
Yeah, him and
True.
his 13 kids.
Jeez, yeah.
But Minnesota also too. The thing that I liked about them, we already mentioned the Aaron Jones signing. Obviously, it looked like Justin Jefferson was going to leave, and that's what happens when you pay players. They actually do well for you and respond. Bengals are learning the hard way when you don't pay players. They picked up Blake Cashman in free agency, the linebacker that was on Houston. They picked up Byron Murphy, the corner that was on Arizona. I mean, these are solid defensive players that have really contributed to their success. And look, I know Joe Mixon was out on Sunday, but they completely shut down that Houston Texans offense. So it's not just Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson. It's the entire team, including the defense. And just want to touch on really quickly. I think arguably the biggest disappointment is the 49ers right now. And yeah, you could say that, you don't have Christian McCaffrey, but Jordan Mason, I think if he's not the leading rusher, he might be second. So it's not like they're missing the running game. Yeah, you miss the elements of Christian McCaffrey catching the ball out of the backfield, but
Mason's been serviceable. He's
Mason's
been good.
been good enough to win games. And
What's been surprised for me is their defense has not looked up to the same they've been the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, this whole year has honestly been a little wonky. Like the teams that are supposed to be bad are great. Your Vikings, your Steelers, your Buccaneers, all the teams are like, they're going to win the division. The Ravens, the Bengals, Cowboys,
49ers,
yeah. Like, they're just losing. Like, they're all like 1-2 or 0-3 or something crazy.
Yeah,
except for the Chiefs, who I'm seriously starting to think have a little bit of the refs on their side. Every week it seems like there's a new one that's just like, how is that not called?
Travis looked like pure dookie.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's
got to get a haircut.
Well, yeah, he came out like Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite and has not played well since.
Yeah, very true.
He's been terrible, and I don't know if it's simply that him and Mahomes for whatever reason can't get on the same page, or maybe it's just with him being 12 years in the league as a tight end. I mean, that can take
or being Mr. Taylor Swift.
Or being Mr. Taylor Swift.
The European tour.
Also, too, his touchdown production dropped a ton
last year from
That's true.
2022. And again, another random theory, although I doubt this is the case, but I don't think it was really beneficial for him to like get into Andy Reid's face at the Super Bowl either.
Mm-hmm.
But
Maybe.
All
But-
right. Well, I think we've covered a whole bunch of NFL
Yeah.
here to get underway.
we
so-
had weeks to. We had weeks.
We did. We were a little backed up in our NFL
Mhm.
talk here, so we had to get that out of our system. But we're going to go ahead and take a quick break right here, and we'll be back here in just a moment with the next round. And welcome back from the break as we're ready to get on to the next round and move on over into college football. And a lot going on here. After the week we missed, UT moving up into the number one spot. And as we were talking off air, now favored to win the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
And
Will they
Texas-
do? It's the question.
Well,
They
they've
get
got.
Georgia at home.
They will get Georgia at home.
Yep.
But that also brings up a conversation I wanted to bring up a little bit later. But I was going to go through the games later on, but we'll go ahead and bring it up now. This week, this coming week, we have Georgia and Alabama, number 2 and 4 coming against each other. So in this game, if you are a Texas fan, are you wanting Georgia to win against Alabama? Because if then you're able to beat Georgia, that helps that prestige, or do you want maybe Alabama getting knocked down a peg? Maybe that way you can see how to beat them, because this is a huge game here between two teams that will, I'm sure, be in this new extended college playoff.
Highly likely.
It's going to be interesting because Texas did not draw Alabama on their SEC schedule this year. However,
They did not.
If Alabama were to beat Georgia, then there's a really dang good chance that Texas would see Alabama in the SEC championship game, and Georgia would be on the outside looking in, trying to be one of those at-large teams going into the college football playoff.
Very true.
It's an interesting question. I think probably in a perfect world, if you're Texas, you would like to see Georgia knock off Alabama, and then you could theoretically have a 1-versus-2 showdown in Austin. And if Texas won that
That's
game,
what I would want as a Texas fan, because I still think you called it, and I agree with you. I think Texas is going to beat Georgia.
yeah, I think so too. And let's face it, Georgia has not looked very good this year. They struggled.
They started strong, but yeah, they've been having some serious issues lately.
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the games that did, one of the events, if you will, of week 3 was Georgia squeaking by Kentucky 13-12.
Kentucky was looking really good in that game too. I really thought Kentucky may have had a chance till the end.
Right. Yeah.
It was looking like they were going to actually win the game till the end. Kentucky was.
The thing that I can't figure out, and it really just pisses me off, is that you had 4th and 8 on Georgia's 47, and then you get a false start. And if you got a first down, you could have easily made a field goal to perhaps win the game, because your kicker already made a field goal from 50 plus. So it was just
I mean, your kicker, 55 yards. So if you got 12 yards or even 10 yards on that play, you have a chance of winning. But yeah, I think so far Carson Beck has not been as good as advertised, and neither
I don't
is
think he's
Trevor.
that good at all.
Yeah, and neither is Trevor Etienne either. And and so look, we need to be careful just because at the end of the day, Georgia's still 3-0, and I think they will beat Alabama on Saturday. But if they lose to Alabama, then you kind of start to think, when you're paying all these players all the money, and it's kind of there could be some inmates running the asylum going on right now in Georgia, because this train is going 1,000 miles per hour, and in this day and age of NIL, the SEC, with the additions of the SEC, just Georgia, they really need to beat Alabama this weekend. I think this, if Alabama, loses, it's a rebuilding year. It's Kalen DeBoer's first year.
Yep.
It's really not that big of a deal. But Georgia needs to go if they want to.
DeBoer's playing with house money right now. They're fourth in the
Exactly.
nation. Playing with house money. They're happy to be where they're at.
Right. In Georgia, if they want to be back in the national championship picture again, they got to win games like this. And if they were to lose, and then you have not only Texas on the road, but you have to play Ole Miss on the road as well. And then you have Tennessee now granted you get them at home, but that's directly a week after the Ole Miss game, and they're in the top 5
That's a rough schedule.
It's just terribly rough schedule. Tennessee looks good.
Yeah,
they look really good this year.
So does Ole Miss.
You have 4 of the
two
top
daunting opponents.
6.
And Tippen's got them rolling hard.
Yeah. Very good point, Joe. Very good point.
So this is a critical game for Georgia this weekend.
Georgia has to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, you always hate to say a week 4 game being a must win, especially in the day and age of a 12-team playoff, but this is pretty close to one. Alabama, when watching that Wisconsin game, I think what I'm concerned about for Alabama is their secondary, because there were times where if they're going against a better team, because Wisconsin, they're probably 5-7 or 6-6 type of team. Wisconsin had some wide open throws that they missed in that game. And I'm afraid if you give up throws like that against Georgia, regardless of how disappointing Carson Beck has been so far, he'll be able to make those throws. One positive I will say for Alabama this year is Jalen Milroe. He's been fantastic so far, especially with the deep ball.
Well.
Yeah, especially with the deep ball. And I think the main thing was for Jalen Milroe is him not making mistakes and making sure you complete your intermediate passing routes. And he's done that, really to perfection so far. Now, granted, the competition obviously hasn't been there yet, but he's had a great start to the year. So, but with that being said, this is, again, pretty damn close to a must-win game for Georgia.
Very true. Very true.
Jumping back into the previous week's game. Sorry we jumped ahead, but that just kind of seamlessly moved into it.
Yes.
One of the other games,
biggest game of the week coming up.
It absolutely is. One of the biggest games of the week this last week was Tennessee, who you brought up earlier, they're ranked 6th in the country, taking on number 15 OU, and OU just really didn't have a chance in this one.
No.
To me, this is another case of Oklahoma's ranked too high. Like, they had no business being top 15. Like, maybe
They did not.
25.
OU is in
closer
a
to 30.
rebuilding year. They're in a rebuilding year.
Yeah,
And there's no reason for them to be up that high.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think I completely agree. I mean, I thought this is a OU team that, was like a 7-5 caliber kind of a team, because not only are you rebuilding, but you're doing it. And I know OU fans hate to hear it, but the reality is you're doing this in the SEC, and then you have a murderer's row schedule on top of it. So it's really a recipe for disaster. And, and it's proven thus far, but Jackson Arnold has been awful as quarterback. And I hate to see it, because it sucks. I mean, he had a fantastic career at Denton Guyer, a local kid, seems to be a really solid guy. But the reality is, when that first half against Tennessee, that's arguably some of the worst quarterback play that we've seen OU have in the past 25 years. Like,
I think the only worst OU quarterback play I've seen is actually from Oklahoma State last week facing Utah.
Well, yeah, that's
in the first half.
Story. Yeah,
That game got Utah in the top 10 this week.
Mm-hmm. And the crazy thing is, they almost lost that game. Sorry, I'm jumping around on you.
Oh no, but I was just going to say, Michael Hawkins Jr. is clearly the quarterback for OU now. I don't care if you're paying Jackson Arnold $1 million in NIL money to be the starter. The reality is that Michael Hawkins is light years ahead of Jackson Arnold at this point, and that's going to be the quarterback of the future. And I think Jackson Arnold, you could make the case that he played his last snap for OU. I think his career might be over.
Wow.
One thing that, or at OU, that is, I think one real quick thing I want to get, a couple quick things. One, there was no love lost between Josh Heupel and OU. I thought OU did a solid job of paying Josh Heupel tribute, who was the last quarterback to take OU to a national championship game. Now the head coach at Tennessee. He was offensive coordinator at OU before Lincoln Riley got there, and Bob Stoops fired him. And then there's no love lost there. There's still a lot of people that are very, very bitter about that. And I think this was extra sweet for Josh Heupel to go into OU and win that game. And, a lot of people say, oh, well, the OU defensive line was still really, really good. If we just had a quarterback, I completely disagree with that, because I feel that Iamaleava had a decent game, and their two running backs, Sampson and Bishop, had a really, really solid game for Tennessee. They ran it down OU's throats the entirety of the game. They weren't getting like 7 yards a carry, but they were doing good enough to move the ball and hang on to win. So I thought it was just a really solid performance for Tennessee. And I think for OU, I mean, I think you're looking at like a 6 or 7 win ball club. And we're next year, we're talking about Brent Venables being on the hot seat and potentially losing his job.
Well, I don't think he'll be fully on the hot seat, because it always seems to happen that when OU has a season like this, when it comes down to the Red River Shootout, I will always call it the Red River Shootout, not the Red River Showdown. It's a shootout.
A rivalry. I can't even say it.
No, it's the Red River Shootout. That's what it is, and what it always will be. Whenever they have a season like this, they always end up beating Texas. It always happens. Texas will be undefeated coming into it, looking strong, and then
Well, that's because they love to smash Texas whenever they're riding
they
high.
do, and they come out to play that game, and then we'll lose the rest of the games that season. Texas has done that to OU multiple times too. That's the way it goes.
Yeah,
So
the
that's
Chuck
why
Strong
I'm-
era, they did that.
Yes, I am not like it worries me. The Red River shootout this year really, really worries me just because of the way Oklahoma is playing. Yeah, they're playing bad now, but that's just the rally game that they need. I want OU playing good, playing very well going into that game. That way you can knock them out and knock them off their high horse. So I need them to start playing better. So I feel
I
better.
got bad news for you.
I know. I need them to start playing better. I don't see it happening, but I need them to start playing better.
I just feel the problem I have is, look, I completely agree because as you said, Texas has been on the right side of history on this, as has OU. When you think the other team is, going to get their brains beaten, and then the shocker happens. The issue that I have is I don't see how OU can score. They just can't score anything. I mean, I think Michael Hawkins.
Change the quarterback, maybe they have a better chance at that point.
It's no, that's the only thing that you're banking on if you're OU, and you're going to have to bank on forcing turnovers. You have to force multiple turnovers in that game to have a chance of winning. But I think honestly, we're looking at a scenario for that Texas OU game. I mean, I would not be surprised if Texas was like 17, 18 point pick in that game. And
I'd be almost tempted to bet against that just because I know this history. But anyways, the other game from last week that was really surprising, number 13, Kansas State University only scoring 9 points against BYU, losing 38-9. And wow, what a shocker. No one thought that one.
Apologies to our buddy. Apologies to our buddy Brandon on that one.
Yes,
I
know he's still weeping about this. Or cussing. Probably cussing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. BYU's 4-0, but there's no reason you should only score 9 points against this team.
No.
It's shocking, really, the year that BYU has had. Kalani Sitake was arguably, one of the, maybe the number one guy on the hot seat going in to this season, at least out of the Power Four conferences. And then he picked up a great win at SMU 2.5 weeks ago on the road, and they killed Kansas State in this game. But I think,
they got 3 turnovers and probably the best punt return I've seen in years.
Yes.
For 90
yards.
That
was unbelievable. That's one of the best you're exactly right. That is one of the best punt returns you'll ever see. And then the guy nearly drops it before he goes to the freaking end zone.
It's like, holy jeez.
But I think probably if you're K-State, this is a big setback. You had such a great performance.
It's a big setback, but it does set up a big game against Oklahoma State, who's fighting at the chomp too after their recent loss. So I think that's going to be a very good game coming up next week.
Yeah, but I think also too this goes back to the inability to make adjustments at halftime if you're Kansas State, because they did this at times last year where they have a game plan in place. It didn't work out in the first half, but they just refused to make any adjustments, which is a little surprising considering I think Chris Kleiman's a really solid coach for K-State. But again, they just refused to make any adjustments at the half, and then BYU killed them 21-3. Avery Johnson, yes, that's the quarterback's name for K-State. Avery Johnson.
The black guy.
he looks like no, he's Sunshine from Remember the Titans. If you haven't seen him play, but he's had an awful, or he had an awful game, and I think he's really had kind of a subpar start to the season. But that game is going to be pretty fascinating against Oklahoma State because, as you alluded to, Caleb, earlier, Alan Bowman, literally in his 7th year of playing college football, continues to make critical interceptions. And I think what's really disappointing
they got to get the ball to Gordon.
Well, I was about to say the problem is that for Ollie Gordon standards, he has not had a good year so far. He's not even averaging 4 yards per carry, and I'm not necessarily blaming that on him. I just think it's got to the point now with Oklahoma State where their offense has become clearly one-dimensional because Alan Bowman can't really throw the ball accurate, or at least set against high-level competition. So, major game, I think, major game with huge Big 12 championship ramifications. And I was a little bearish on Utah this year. I wasn't necessarily buying the hype, especially with Cam Rising, their quarterback, who is also in his 7th year, who was out this game against Oklahoma State. I believe he's going to be missing. He might be back for the Arizona game, but regardless of the point, Utah's had a really good start to the year, and so I'm starting to buy the hype of Utah a little bit. So, it could be a situation to where we have Utah and perhaps the winner of this K-State Oklahoma State game be the other participant in the Big 12 championship game. Also, we mentioned BYU. Another team to watch out for is Central Florida. KJ Jefferson, the Arkansas transfer, has been fantastic at quarterback this far. And another, I won't say Heisman Trophy guy, but maybe an outside Doak Walker candidate. Their running back, RJ Harvey, has been fantastic. So
I still feel
watch out for
from
UCF.
Boise State, though.
Oh, I know. That's why I was about to bring up Ginty. So if we're going to bring up some, I won't call UCF a small school considering their student body is 65,000 people, but
underrated teams.
Underrated, not as talked about on a national level.
Right.
But yeah, another team to watch out for, another player to watch out for.
Very true. And what's weird too is Bowling Green keeps pushing teams to the limit. They can't seem to beat them like Appalachian State did. Bowling Green's been right there pushing these top teams, and Texas A&M squeaking out a victory too this past week.
Yeah, Bowling Green, they lost only by a touchdown to Penn State, and then barely lost to A&M, and A&M just they're a subpar offense at best.
I'm really surprised that they're still ranked.
I wouldn't have them ranked either because
they were 25th last week, but still, I just don't see it.
You haven't beaten anybody. I don't care that you won at Florida. Congratulations, they fucking suck. I mean, A&M is just. I think the defense is solid, but
you don't have a quarterback right now, and your running game, I think, is pretty solid. But and I think your offensive line is decent. But if you don't have a quarterback that can make plays on a consistent basis, you're gonna have some serious issues winning games. And I don't envision that getting a whole heck of a lot better for A&M this season. Really going to be a big game this weekend at Jerry World with A&M and Arkansas, and I think Sam Pittman is coaching for his job in that game for Arkansas. So, and hopefully they stop playing that game at Jerry World because it's really annoying. But of course, Jerry wanted it to happen because it's fucking Arkansas.
Arkansas. That's why.
Exactly.
Well, looking into the games coming up this week, we've already talked about the game of the week, which is going to be Georgia, Alabama. That's the game I've already got circled that I'm going to be watching. Number 15, Louisville versus number 16, Notre Dame. And Louisville's had Notre Dame's number the last few years. So I'm curious to see what actually happens with this game. This game will be nationally broadcast because all Notre Dame games are nationally broadcast.
Unfortunately, but yes.
On the NBC and Peacock. But
Yes.
yeah, this is a sneaky good game. I thought Louisville showed, I was impressed with their performance against Georgia Tech on Saturday. I think Tyler Shook has looked really, really solid so far for Louisville this season. Main thing is he hasn't made any mistakes. I think that's been critical for their success so far. The major part will be is whether or not Louisville can continue to run the ball as well as they've had so far. Look, regardless of what happened against Northern Illinois for Notre Dame when they, obviously one of the biggest upsets you'll ever see.
Northern Illinois lost to Buffalo this last week.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. How horrible it was. So the thing is, Notre Dame's run defense is still really, really good. And the key will, in my mind, in this game is whether or not Notre Dame or whether or not Louisville rather can continue the production on the run. They've been fantastic so far. Obviously, they really haven't played anyone as of yet, with the exception of Georgia Tech. So the key will be is whether or not Notre Dame can stop Louisville's run game, because if Notre Dame is able to stop the run for Louisville, again, even though I was complimenting Tyler Shook this year as far as his play is concerned, I wouldn't be very comfortable making him the sole source of offense for Louisville. Again, it's going to be a battle in the trenches. But at the same time, you've had Riley Leonard, who is supposed to be a superstar quarterback for Notre Dame. Yeah, he hasn't done anything for them so far. At some point, Riley Leonard is going to have to make plays for them as well. So it's going to be
just another transfer quarterback that they're throwing into the system and expecting just to fit in like just a puzzle piece. And it's not happening. They're not. We talked about this weeks ago.
Yeah,
but they don't develop quarterbacks. They just keep bringing these guys in from other teams, from other schools, smaller schools, Wake Forest, Duke. It's bringing guys in, just seeing if they're going to work instead of actually developing bringing in a top tier quarterback. You're Notre Dame. You can bring in a top tier quarterback.
Right. And like you said, they did the same thing with Sam Hartman too. They just Rob it. It's just okay, here you go. Do your thing. We're not even going to coach you. We're not going to develop you at all. We're not going to utilize your strengths. They've done it multiple years in a row. And that's squarely on Marcus Freeman.
That's squarely on Marcus Freeman for not.
It is on Marcus Freeman. I completely throw him under the bus for that the entire way because there's no way you can't tell me you don't have NIL money for a quarterback. It's Notre fucking Dame.
Right.
Yeah.
They have the
That's-
money. There's only one school that has more money than you, and that's Texas.
Exactly.
That's the only one. No one else should have more money. No one else should have more sway than you. If you want somebody, you should be able to go recruit them and go get them. But you keep going get these transfer guys and expect them to plug them into your system and make them work when they've been in a completely other. You need to build up that repertoire. You need to be there for years and go through that. But they're trying to just plug in a good quarterback from another school and trying to skip that whole stage and try to get right into the playoff and play because they can select their own schedule because they're still independent.
Exactly. No, it's 100. That's 100% accurate. And Notre Dame is in a spot now where they have to win out to get in the playoff, in my opinion, because the schedule
absolutely they have to win out.
Schedule simply isn't there because after Louisville, you will not play a ranked team until the final game of the year, which is at USC. And then, with the way USC looked at times against Michigan, and granted, yes, they almost won that game. And yes, they did beat LSU. I don't think it's necessarily a guarantee that
they'll be ranked. I don't think they will be
they'll
ranked.
They may not. So
if you want to win, you got to beat Louisville. They need to beat Louisville convincingly.
Yes.
And they need to then win all the rest of their schedule, and they need to win. They can't be going against these unranked teams and winning by a field goal at the end of the game. They need to come in and dominate from start of the game till the end. That's what you have to do when you pick your own schedule because you're an independent school. There's only one left really that can do that.
Right. When you lost to Northern Illinois, you gave up the ability to dick around against teams. You have to win convincingly at this point. Not only win, but win convincingly.
And their quarterback has to do that. They need that challenge needs to be put to him of, hey, you need to own this. One, for your draft stock to prove that you can be an NFL quarterback, but you're good. It's not like you don't have eyes on you. You're at Notre Dame now. You're not at Duke anymore. I mean, if you played basketball for Duke, everybody would watch it and see, but you played football for Duke, which they've done better here lately, but now you're at Notre Dame. You're on TV every single fucking week. Everyone's watching you.
You're on NBC or ABC every single fucking week.
I mean, Brady Quinn got fucking drafted.
Yeah, first round.
In the first round, you can get drafted if you play well. All you got to do is play well. Okay, you had one bad game. Go out and finish the rest of the year strong. Get Notre Dame into the playoff. Win a game, maybe two in the playoffs. Hey, you just upped your draft stock immensely.
Correct.
So, motivation there. One of the other games I wrote down, number 19, Illinois against number 9, Penn State. In an early challenge here for Penn State. I don't think it's a huge challenge, but I think this is a good game to see what you're going to get from Penn State before they go up against Ohio State, Michigan later on.
Yeah, this is an interesting game.
Penn State should stop Illinois, in all honesty.
No,
they should beat them. They should beat them.
That's what I said. They should stop them.
Yeah, but how many times?
How well?
And how many times have we said, okay, this is going to be Penn State's year, and then they end up shitting the bed against someone? Oh, wait.
Well, we're not saying a year. This is just a game.
No,
we're not saying this is their year. This is not Penn State's year, but they should beat Illinois.
No, well, but what I'm saying though is that this is a Penn State team that, with Drew Aller as a quarterback and the run game that they have and the two-headed monster of Singleton and Allen, this is a team that, in theory, should compete for a Big Ten championship and certainly a spot in the college football playoff. But we've seen it too many times before with James Franklin. He has the talent to compete. for a Big Ten championship and a college football playoff berth, and they shit the bed. I can think of time 3 years ago when they lost, in fact, to Illinois at home when they had a legitimate team to compete for the college football playoff. There's been too many times where Penn State has shit the bed. They need to demonstrate that they are, in fact, 18 and a half points better than Illinois. They need to curb stop Illinois to prove to people that they're legit, that they're for real. Again, we saw it earlier this year against Bowling Green. We alluded to that earlier. They almost freaking lost that game. You miraculously gave up 27 to Bowling Green. You cannot afford to dick around against Illinois. You need to show the national audience, you're going to do this on NBC in prime time. You need to demonstrate that we're for real and we can not only win a Big Ten championship, but we can, perhaps compete for a national title. And it starts by beating the shit out of Illinois on Saturday.
I agree.
You cannot dick around in this game.
And I think they will beat Illinois. And I fully feel like they'll beat Illinois. But with Illinois being ranked, even though they're only ranked 19, to come out there and stomp them 56-3, putting your stamp on this game is the only way you're going to be able to start moving up here now with the way this is lined up. You got to compete against Ohio State. Ohio State's going to be up there at the top. If you want to have a chance against them, ranking wise, you need to beat the teams you're supposed to beat and beat them well.
Yeah.
That's the reason Texas moved up and jumped Georgia, is because they beat the teams they were supposed to beat handedly. They stomped them down into the dirt and didn't let them back up. And Georgia has not been doing that. Georgia has been letting these teams hang around, such as last week with Kentucky, where they should have stomped Kentucky. It should have been a 52-3 game easily. But they let Kentucky hang around and almost beat them.
Correct.
And because of that, Texas was able to jump them.
Yeah.
You got to beat the teams that you got to beat, and you got to beat them. And this Penn State team needs to stomp Illinois to prove that they deserve to keep, to be in the conversation of a national championship. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And the last game,
I was just going to say real quick, especially when you have 2 weeks away, you got USC on the road, and then 5 weeks away, you got Ohio State at home. And yeah, it starts right now.
Yep. And the last game I put in is not a big tier game, but because they are ranked number 1, Texas has Mississippi State.
Yes. And I would assume, it would appear that Arch Manning will be playing, but it's just amazing it's just amazing really what you have is this is such an embarrassment of riches for Texas, because I think Quinn Ewers is probably, anywhere from the top 10 to top 15 pick in this year's NFL draft. And
he was a leader for the Heisman before he went down.
Exactly. And then now you have Arch Manning step in, and for once, with the exception of Archie Manning over 50 years ago, you have a Manning that can run with the football. And this
Very
guy,
true.
Yeah, but he got 2 interceptions last game too, so he's still.
Yeah, he's still
that
raw,
rookie.
but the thing is,
Well, luckily Eli called him after the game, after the win, instead of saying "good job," he goes, "You really messed up there at the end."
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, you're going to have some growing pains, but also too.
Anyone knows interceptions, it's Eli Manning.
Yeah,
Right.
Exactly. And then you've had Jaden Blue, who's really stepped in and
he's been looking great.
He's been comfortable with being the full feature back after the injury to CJ Baxter in the summer. And Mississippi State, frankly, is the worst team in the SEC. That includes Vanderbilt. This is a Mississippi State team that got smoked by Florida this past Saturday, and this is a team that lost to Toledo at home 41-17. Texas should, I mean, they're 38.5-point picks. I would expect them to cover the spread and win somewhere in the neighborhood of like 52-7. So I don't, this should be a very, very simple game for Texas. And then
should be, because Texas defense has looked fantastic. We can talk all day about what Archman's done, what Quinn Ewers has done, but their defense has been solid.
Yes, it's been fantastic. And again, this goes back to what Sark has built, whether it's getting through recruiting or whether it's utilizing the transfer portal. They lost Byron Murphy last year. They lost Devontae Sweat last year.
And they've restocked with what they brought in.
Exactly. It's not an issue of whether or not, oh man, how's Texas going to replace all these players? They just reload now. That's the level that Texas is at right now, and people need to realize
that Sark has basically brought in that Alabama mentality of, we're not rebuilding, we're reloading every year.
Correct. And he was there for a number of years under Saban doing that. And that's, they're not rebuilding, they're reloading. And this is a Texas team.
That shit can get you in trouble, though. Just look at the Cowboys.
What are you talking about? Alabama
Cowboys always say they're reloading.
No, that's Jerry talking.
Jerry's saying we're reloading and not doing anything, and actually doing something and reloading, which is what Sark has been doing. He's actually gone out and brought people in, unlike Jones did with Cowboys.
Yeah, there's actual facts.
And never signed anyone.
There are actual facts to where Texas has reloaded based on their talent. Not Jerry. It's not Sark saying we're all in and they didn't bring any recruits or they didn't utilize a transfer portal. There's proof in the pudding.
Well, were there any of the games that you guys wanted to bring up before we go ahead and end this segment here?
Let me just...
No, I mean, I'm going to be watching Boise State, Washington if I can, but that's just for Ginty.
Yeah.
I'll be watching the games that I can, but I'm definitely catching Georgia, Alabama. That one is going to be...
I think everyone's got that circled. They're planning the yard work, the lunches, the masses. They're planning everything around that.
As we said earlier, I want Georgia to win this game because Texas will face Georgia, and I want that number 1, number 2 matchup. Yes. Because that right there could be one of the games of the year.
No, absolutely. And, I really can't think of any other marquee, games on the schedule that we haven't talked about. It's just the only thing I would caution some of these teams is that we've seen it before where, you start off really good out of conference and you beat up on some teams, and then you go into a conference game and you're favored by 24 points, and then all of a sudden it's 20-17 in the fourth quarter. So my advice to these top teams is just do not overlook anybody, because you could be in some serious trouble, especially again with these teams like the Big 12 and the ACC, when you don't have very many, when you essentially surrender your opportunity if you lose, if you don't make your conference championship game. So you cannot afford to slip up if you're some of these teams.
Even these early games are important.
Yes.
Well, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be back in just a few moments with the next round.
good. Man, that's good. That's what you call gumbo. Poor man gumbo.
And welcome back from the break as we're ready to hit the last round of the evening, the sports gumbo, where we throw everything in that we weren't able to hit earlier in the previous segments. And the first ingredient thrown into this gumbo here is going to be Major League Baseball. And I have to finally acquiesce. The Rangers have been eliminated and do not mathematically have a chance anymore.
Oh,
Yep.
Why are you
True.
cheering, you dick?
I said no.
Oh, well, you're
It does
throwing
look
your
like a
hands
cheer,
in the
but
air
yeah.
like you were cheering. And you were away from your microphone, so your no just sounded like, ah. So,
Boo.
He is a Nationals fan, so.
Oh, well, I'm not going to cheer against the Rangers.
well, anyways,
cheer
we're
against
just giving you
Atlanta.
shit.
I heard this discussion earlier on 105.3 The Fan earlier today when I was listening to it, just to get some of my sports prep in before our podcast. And their question was, what happened this year? Like, what happened? You know, you only got a month and a half left of saying the reigning World Series champions, but what happened this year? And really, clearly, it just came to my mind. I know what happened. We had the wrong injuries at the wrong time this year. Now, we knew we weren't going to have DeGrom. We knew that. That was, if we got him back, okay, that's great. That's the icing on top of the cake. That'd be great. But we weren't expecting Young to get hurt early in the season.
Or Evan
We weren't
Carter.
expecting
To be
Evan
down
Carter
for
to
the
go
year.
down. To go down for the year after he had such a poor performance early. We weren't expecting Scherzer to go down, and then not coming back like 3 months later than we immediately thought. We didn't expect. I mean, yeah, I guess you could expect Seager to go down because he has every season he's been with it. He's gone down for a few games, but he's come back strong. We weren't expecting Adolis Garcia to go down or to lose his performance. I mean, there's a lot of things that came down that we were bit by the injury.
Garcia's was more of a regression than an injury. However, Garcia's now, he could lead the team in RBIs and could potentially have 30 home runs by the time this year finishes. So, I mean, he's come back.
Oh, is that really a regression?
You got to say the start of the year it is.
It is. But that also comes down to,
And then, like you said, injury. There's not
did
who's
he
around
just
him,
have,
who's protecting.
did he just have a fantastic year? Who's protecting? Well, with Young going down, if Young didn't go down when he did, would that have protected him more? Would he have had a better season? I mean, there's a lot of what ifs that have come in with that. Now that you have Langford up, you know, is this to a point where you talk to Adolis Garcia of, hey, you're now the DH. You're not an everyday player anymore.
Honestly, I think you take Tavares out, move Carter to your center, put Wyatt out there at left, and that's your outfield. Tavares can be your DH if you want.
I would be extremely happy with that because Tavares has not shown anything at the plate for the past, even during last year.
Because Garcia was still a good defender out there.
He does because he has a cannon of an arm.
Yes.
He has a fucking cannon. Even when he's not hitting the broadside of a barn, he can still throw somebody out running for home. I mean, he does still have that cannon of an arm. And I like that idea a whole lot better. I would get rid of Leotis easily, just because to me, he has been the weakest link for a long time.
He's probably got more trade value than Garcia at this point, too, in all honesty, with as old as Garcia is.
Because of his youth.
Right. People feel they can turn that shit around all the time. And if you got Duran, if they keep
normally I disagree, Caleb, with some of your decisions, but that one I fully, wholeheartedly agree with you on. Like, I'm lockstep with you on that. I would be happy to get rid of Tavares, move Evan Carter to center field, which I think he could handle just fine. Put Wyatt Langford in left, keep Adolis in right, and roll it out another year and see what you get.
Right. I like to see that for sure.
I think really, yeah. I mean, obviously, the Josh Young injury, you feel awful for him because it was just so
It's a freak injury, but
random.
there's also a lot of teams that complained about the Orioles pitching inside this year and hurting a lot of batters around that wrist area.
Yeah,
so Seager had complaints about it and got injured, and so did Young. That's just our team.
Well,
There's an Indians guy who walked off and said, "I'm not going to do this shit anymore.
Guardians.
If y'all keep doing that shit." Guardians, excuse me.
But I think I think it's it's a combination of I think it's a combination of injuries and also too you had guys last year that grossly overachieved. Like
we're also missing Montgomery. I mean, Montgomery's been steady in Arizona, but he hasn't been
Montgomery. I don't think we missed Montgomery. Pitching has not been the problem this year. Pitching has not, even with
it really has.
Pitching has not been the problem. No, the problem, the most glaring problem I saw this season.
And the bullpen was sometimes better than starting.
It was, but the biggest position that I saw the most regression in over Garcia and a bunch of other people was Jonah Heim.
Yes.
Now, to me, was Jonah Heim was last year his one flare? Because even before last year,
I mean, he didn't hit like that before last year. No,
he never.
That's a great year he had.
To me, he's now defensively, he's still amazing. Like I'm happy if you keep him defensively, I'm good with that. Absolutely good with that. But to me, he needs to prove himself offensively this next season. Like, okay, we need to see what you have, because before last season, the World Series season, there was talk of him not even being on the team just because offensively he couldn't do anything. Everyone was so surprised about what he did last year. And then this year, it was a full, even more regression. Like Garcia got it just because of what he did in the playoffs, and that he didn't replicate that the whole season. It's like, okay, well, he didn't do that the whole season. He did that at the playoffs. He
also had 40 home runs last year.
He had a great season, but what he did in the playoffs kind of, I think, overshadowed everything else. The way he was just belting the ball, the way he was just tearing the cover off. Exactly. Like, he made a name for himself there, which I'm happy for him. But
he had a legend, so I mean, it's hard to fight the legend.
Yeah, but
it is. I think, his regression to me wasn't as surprising as Jonah Heim's. I mean, maybe it shouldn't have been, because Jonah didn't do anything up to that point. At least Adolis was a home run guy before that.
Another issue that I have with Heim is that not only did his bat go down the drain, his defense did too. I saw that Evan Grant, who's the beat writer for the Rangers for the Dallas Morning News, I believe he stated a couple weeks ago, unsuccessful in 38 of last 41 attempts dating back to the All-Star break. So his lack of hitting, I think, got into his head potentially, defensively as well. Because
38 to 41, what are you talking about there? Like,
meaning he was unsuccessful throwing out. So he only threw out 3 guys on 41 stealing attempts.
Still, okay. Is that still in second or still in just period?
Right. So basically, 3 out of 41, he is unsuccessful. I mean, so 3 out of 41 times he threw someone out.
Still in second. He was able to 3 out of 41. Okay, yes. That's fucking terrible. That's worse than the league. It has to be, at least near the worst.
And then his OPS went down below 600. I mean, it's really an unbelievable regression. Yes, he overachieved greatly last year, but at the same time, my God, it's just really this season
how you
could not have
feel,
ended
Jeff?
soon enough.
Hey, with all the Ranger games that because of them winning the World Series, I was able to get more regular season games up north up here because Apple TV, ESPN Sunday night games of the week.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember a single game I watched where I saw Jonah Heim throw anyone out. Still an inning. And a lot of those games were before the All-Star break. Because after they dried those up really quickly because the Rangers weren't playing well enough to be able to be broadcast out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But in all those games, it was like, John, what are you doing? You're striking out left and right. Like I was like, this is not the same guy from last year.
No.
It was blatantly obvious.
Yeah, not even
Very
close.
true.
And yeah, I mean, to me the defense and the OPS of below 600, I just don't know really. That's just not even major league level. So I don't know what happens to Jonah Heim.
Well, we'll have to see, because what other better option do you have? You don't really have a better option than him at this moment. And I think a lot of it came just to everything was a perfect storm this year of there wasn't going to be a repeat. I mean, as much as we all hoped and thought at the beginning of the season, because, we got Wyatt Langford coming up, and we got bit by the injury bug. We apparently in some way pissed off the baseball gods that it was not going to happen. There wasn't enough we could do. So that's just what it is. So it's next year, what can we do better? Can Jonah Heim perform better? Can Wyatt Langford, who I think will perform a lot better next season than he did this year when he was kind of thrown to the wolves and we thought, oh, he's doing great in preseason. Then he sucked ass for 2 months before coming back and actually really starting to get the hang of things and get things going on. So I think he's going to have a huge year next year.
And I think the main thing with Langford too is that, unlike this season, I think the power is going to immediately be there at the start of the year because it took Langford time to get the power going. Because, I mean, hell, his first home run was an inside the park home run.
You had to figure out the timing.
Exactly. You just can't.
What you're getting in preseason is not the same thing you're going to get in the regular season.
Right. I mean, and I think it was unfair expectations. You can't anticipate.
No, it's completely unfair.
It's just like, oh, he's going to come in and hit 35 home runs because he did that in spring training.
Well, except for on here where we said we hope the best for him, but we're not expecting him to do well. Right. We said that at the beginning of the season. We said, all three of us, we agreed. Hey, we don't expect it to be, the next Aaron Judge right out of the bat. Like, hey, he's going to have it rough, and we're fine with that. Just don't get injured too bad. Don't do anything terrible.
Right.
Which he didn't do.
Yeah, and turned it on late, too.
Well, that injury, that little stint on the DL where he was able to kind of just
honestly, that was the best thing that happened. That was the best thing that happened to Wyatt Langford.
And we said that at the time. This should be the best thing that happens to him because he can take some time to kind of work on his swing, figure some things out. He can look back at tape and see what he's missing. And it did. It worked out for him. He played so much better after that.
Right. And also one other positive this year for the Rangers, Josh Smith was great this year. He had a great year.
Very true. Very true.
He did. Hopefully they can bring him back. I would not mind him bringing him back at all. But if they don't, I'm not gonna worry about it. He had a great season, but at the same time, do you expect him to have that same caliber season again? If you do, go ahead. He could still stay here. He could
We
do
had
it
too
here
many
and be
guys.
fine with that. He could go to another team on a big contract and not, basically it could be like JJ Barea, right after the Mavs won the championship, he went and signed a big contract over in Milwaukee, or no, it was Minnesota. Rode the bench, got paid extremely well to ride the bench, and then came back and re-signed again with Dallas for like the veteran minimum, and then was successful again.
Yes.
So it could be something like that maybe he fits in Bochy's system. I don't know. We'll see. But I would, if he went and got paid by somebody else, I'd be happy. I don't know the particulars of his contract. So if he's
That's a
already,
good
we've got
point.
him
I'm
in
not
contract,
sure
that's
either.
great. If not, if he goes, wish the best for him. But if he stays, I wouldn't mind bringing him back. Would not.
Right.
Would not bring him
agree. Like I said, if nothing else, he could be trade bait.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, even though Texas is out, there is some, there's a lot of, so teams jockeying in here into the wild card position. Baltimore, and as we were talking about earlier this evening, Detroit now in that second wild card spot and really bringing themselves up because just, a month ago, it was Kansas City and the Twins that were then there in that spot in Detroit, just barely hanging on. And they've really surged here late here in the season to be able to get into this playoff positioning.
Yeah, they were kind of on the periphery for a while, but then it was just like, oh, well, there's not enough time, and the Royals are playing too good right now with Bobby Witt, and the Twins have a solid lineup. But to me, the key is this. No one knows about this guy at all, but Tariq Skubal he's going to win this. He is going to win the Cy Young this year in the American League. He's been that good for the Tigers. 228 strikeouts in 192 innings, 22 quality starts out of 31 starts, 18-4 record, 2.39 ERA. Honestly, the best kept secret in baseball because no one knows who the fuck he is, and he's about to win the Cy Young for Detroit. And I would say, I don't know if I go as far as saying single-handedly taking him to the playoffs, but pretty damn close. And so what Detroit has been able to do has been nothing short of unbelievable. So kudos to them. And I think the only thing, and again, not to bring this back to the Rangers again, but the opportunity, was there this season, even with an off season, to at least get a wild card bid. But
opportunity was definitely there.
Right. And so now hopefully we'll see Bobby Witt Jr. sighting in the playoffs. I think it would be great for everyone to see him on a national level and just see what kind of a talent he is, because he is a fantastic player, and we'll see him for years to come.
Saw him 2 weeks ago.
Exactly.
It was a pleasure.
Yes.
It was an absolute pleasure getting to go to the Pirate Kansas City game, taking my youngest son to his first ever baseball game. And the whole reason of picking that game was okay, we go to Kansas City here and get a Roberto Clemente memorial card, which is boys love to get their baseball card. But getting to see Bobby Witt, I wanted to get to watch this guy. We've been talking about him enough that it's like, hey, I actually want to see this guy play, and I've got an opportunity to get here and watch him. And even though he went 0 for the whole game, just barely swinging, he almost drilled it out of the park.
Yeah, just
it was
natural.
It was amazing to watch him swing, watch him play. Had my sons watch him, just watch him out in the field. Can't wait. Look forward to if Kansas City comes again. Trying to get to watch them again. If you haven't got to, if Kansas City's coming to town, you need to go watch him, because Bobby Witt Jr. is a reason to go watch.
Right.
It's play.
Yeah,
and
and
it's
also
a pleasure watching him play the game.
Right. And just to piggyback on that, it's like, yeah, he may have gone 0 for 4, but it's a privilege to watch him play in the field. He was snubbed as a Golden Glove candidate last year. Hopefully that doesn't happen
If
to him
he
again
doesn't
this
get a Gold Glove
year.
this year, it is an atrocity from what I watched personally.
Yes.
Like, I sat there and watched him play in person, and it was textbook. It was just amazing. Like, I watched him the whole game. I didn't care about what else was going on. I just watched him play his position, and it was amazing. It really was. I was trying to tell my kids, 5 and 3, hard to make the pick. Anything but like, watch this guy. He's good.
Right.
Just watch him.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's certainly a treat to watch Bobby Witt Jr. play. Even with their 7-game skid, it would appear at this point that they're going to hold on to a wild card spot. I don't know if it'll be the number 2 wild card spot, but
It's very close. The Twins are only, a game and a half behind them. I mean, it's
correct.
tight.
The one positive for KC is that they did in 10 innings, no less, did beat Washington 1-0. So they survive another day. Houston came back and beat Seattle to clinch the division. That's a huge game for them, obviously, just to get something positive going into the playoffs. And Seattle, I think, they were 1.5 games out of the wild card going in to tonight, but there's only so many games at this point now, being 2.5 out. The Guardians
Once again, Seattle has Seattled it.
Oh, yes. And that's why Scott Service, their manager, was fired a month ago, because there's been too many years of failing down the stretch.
Yep.
And then going into the National League, the Phillies have been, far and away the best team in the NL East all year long. They're 5.5 ahead of the Mets. They've already clinched the East, but
that's what surprises me, is that the Mets are the number 2 wild card team as of right now.
Correct.
That
yes.
surprises me so much. After they last year of the Mets fire sale of getting rid of Scherzer and Verlander and everyone that they got rid of, just shipped them all out. It was like, okay, it's a full rebuilding, and now here they are, second wild card.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, because really their rotation is really just a bunch of kind of guys that were good 4 or 5 years ago that you might consider building around. What's happened is
a completely Mets way of doing things.
Correct. So
we sell everyone off, and then we sell everyone off, and then we limp into the playoffs.
Correct. And so basically what you've somehow been able to do is that you had a rotation that on paper was good 5 years ago, exceed expectations, and you had finally Francisco Lindor play up to his potential, like he was doing in Cleveland so many years ago. Pete Alonso has turned back the clock this year. So you have guys
turn that around at the All-Star break, because I don't know what it is about Pete Alonso and the home run derby that just like turns him on. Like he can play like shit, be injured all the first part of the season, then all of a sudden the home run derby comes on, and he's in it every year, and then he hulks out and freaking tears it up the rest of the season.
Pete Alonso, you could make the argument he's the best batting practice player there is. I mean, every ball he hits seems to go out of the park. So now, with that being said, the Mets are not fully in as of yet. The Padres, they appear to be in. They're the number 1 wild card team. We've joked about for such a long time, but great year for Manny Machado, great year for Jerks and Profar, and
They're
then you have
leading the Dodgers at the moment.
Correct, and it's not technically out of the realm of possibility that, well, let's see. Can they win? I mean, the Dodgers.
The Indians, honestly, too. Don't forget about them over in the AL. Might be able to get the Yankees #1 spot.
Guardians.
That's correct.
Guardians, whoever the heck they
You
are.
racist.
God, you could just continue to pound that.
I know,
in.
right? I'm just going to hammer that nail home.
But yeah, the Padres can still. I'm offended. The Padres can still win the division.
All right,
Show
White
us on the-
Karen.
Show us on the doll where he touched you and offended you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Joe. Please don't move your camera down.
Oh yeah, it hurt me there too. But no,
Don't put your camera down.
Like your Bengals.
But the NL looks pretty much all set. Although it would be such a Mets thing if they somehow were to blow this and let the Braves come back and do it again. I don't know how the hell the Braves are in this, but it starts with Chris Sale, who he'll be the NL Cy Young Award winner this year. Max Fried has had a fantastic year. And then, of all people, Marcell Ozuna in the lineup essentially assumed the role of Ronald Acuna, doing it at 33 years old. So it's not over for the Braves just yet, especially with
They
the
do
way.
they do have to supplement Arizona because Arizona's right above them, a game and a half above them for the wild card.
That is correct. And if the one interesting thing, though, with the Braves and the Mets is that Braves did beat the Mets tonight, 5-1, and they have 2 more games to go. If the Braves win those next 2 games, I would be scared if I was a Met, because I would not want to have to deal with that media. If you somehow you came back to get into the wild card picture, and then if you somehow blew it to your division rival in Atlanta, when Atlanta's been shorthanded all year long, I would hate to be. I'd hate to be a player or a manager or any personnel person affiliated with the Mets. That would just be not good. And one real quick thing, we didn't touch on the NL Central. The Brewers just ultimately walked away with the division easily. It's a very, very competitive division for a while, but ultimately,
Pirates got last.
yes, the Pirates got last.
Paul
the
Skeens only could do so much.
Exactly, and I think it sucks for the Pirates because they were on a huge they were on a really solid run for a while, and then they lost 10 in a row, and that was it in August, but just in time for Steelers season to start when they went down to take. And that's impressive for Pittsburgh. They made it as far as
They made it to the
training camp.
Steelers season. That's what that's all they can
That's
ever ask.
that's what they wanted to. That's what they needed to.
Once the Steelers start, no one cares about the Pirates anymore.
Exactly.
Right.
Just like Dallas. And so the Pirates did their job this year. The Reds, a disappointing season, which led to David Bell getting fired. Not to go too deep in the Reds, but there's some serious, I think, management issues that contribute to their downfall as well. The Cardinals, a very disappointing season. In fact, I would say they overachieved with the lack of talent they had.
It's now starting to be the Cardinals are a disappointing season every year. They have not looked good the past 2-3 years. This is starting to become a habit for the Cardinals, for a team that's normally been a perennial.
This is my sad
division winner. Yes, exactly. I can see that. No one else can see it because we're podcasting.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's right. We don't do
Which has a
video.
very shit-eating grin on his face.
Yes. we don't-
You eat shit for
do-
breakfast?
Oh, Happy
You
Gilmore
specific
2
you
coming
breakfast?
out.
Yeah, that will be
Mhm.
coming out.
But
All right,
then,
well, go ahead and pivot away from baseball. Let's go ahead and hit the other subject of the English Premier League.
oh, I
Something
can't wait
that
to talk about this.
burning in my
Yeah,
soul since
the
I
burning
watched.
in your loins.
It's not been my loins; it's been in my soul.
Uh,
Pierced me deeply. So
the long suffering Arsenal fan continues. So.
yes, I mean as someone who's been suffering for years and years and years about taking down, Manchester City, we've been going for many, many years of suffering. We're just trying to finally, get up on top, We're trying to be wheezy here.
Up on the east side.
All right,
However,
go through your
Arsenal,
spiel.
Manchester City this past Sunday. Arsenal going down. Haaland getting the first goal, taking Man City up early, 1-0. But Arsenal in the first half getting 2 goals unanswered, taking a 2-1 lead into halftime until right before the halftime whistle at the very end of extra time. I'm forgetting his name right now. But because Odegaard's out hurt right now. It was
Are you talking about the red card of the first half?
yes.
Trossard.
Trossard getting a second yellow card after he ran into another Manchester City player as the ball was in the air, which if you look at it, it shouldn't deserve the yellow. It should let the guys play. Let them play. But he ends up getting the yellow card, which gave him the red card. Arsenal's then whistle blows not long afterwards, and it's halftime. Arsenal plays the entire rest of the game a man down.
Except for what
So,
happened in the final.
as you hit the 90-minute mark, there's 7 minutes of stoppage time still to play. So 7 minutes goes along. 8 minutes goes along. 9 minutes goes along. And at 9 minutes 58 seconds, Manchester City is able to score and tie the game up when there was only 7 minutes first put up at the end of regulation. And then right afterwards, after they score, then time is then called. And it makes me wonder, what the hell is going on?
That was brutal.
3 minutes after they put up 7 minutes of extra stoppage time, almost 3 minutes later, you're still playing, and then Manchester City is able to score and tie the game.
Yeah.
At what point are you? At what point is the fix in? They had him stopped. They held him the entire second period to no score with a man down. Then they held him for the extra stoppage time of 7 minutes. Then another 2 minutes and 58 seconds, or 2 minutes 50 seconds, past what the original stoppage time was.
Well,
and no.
Yeah, because I don't remember there being too many
the-
injuries in the second half.
well,
No, there wasn't.
I'll say this. At the end of that game, Arsenal, again, I don't think necessarily they should be, for lack of a word, penalized for this, but they did some, kind of chicken shit things, if you will, to run out the time.
Well, that was part of that. That's how you play the game.
I understand that, but
That's
I
how you
mean,
play the
but
game.
that was a
Sad
little
but true,
that was a
sad
little
but true.
excessive. That was a little excessive in that.
in
Well,
that
also at that point, they had been playing for a lot longer than they should have because it should have been over. It should have been done. But the officials, which I've seen in other games, right when it's 3 minutes of stoppage time, 4 minutes stoppage time. It hits even before it even hits the 4 minutes, or if it's 4:01, they're calling it. I'm
Yeah.
sitting there watching the game. Is it 96 minutes and 48 seconds? Call my son in to watch because he's an Arsenal fan. Hey, we're about to beat Manchester City. And then it continues on for the 2.5, almost 3 minutes. It's like, what the hell? It says 7 minutes up there. 90 plus 7 minutes. But now we're in 99 minutes. What the fuck is going on? At what point is the fix going on? Like, I understand. I'm, as a long term Arsenal fan, I don't fully understand all of the rules here because I
Yeah.
just really
I
don't know
would
That's a
what we
say-
do.
long
The
time
only
you never
thing I
understood
can
the
think
rules.
of, and again, I'm not
But it's just
suggesting.
what's going on here? Why, when you say there's 7 minutes of overtime, okay, it comes down to the official. I understand, and the official could say, okay, yeah, during this stoppage time, there's a couple. Okay, we need to go to 7:13 because of the guy throwing the ball in or something. But to go an extra 3 minutes, like what the hell?
And again, I'm not
Weird.
saying this is fair, but I'll go back to what I was saying earlier is that depending on the referees that you have, there's a fine line between being clever and being cheap. And some refs get pissed off with that. I mean, I don't think necessarily Arsenal should have been penalized for doing whatever tactics they can do to prevent
Also,
Manchester City from scoring. But the reality is, some refs get pissed off with that.
they were also
and I think they gave
down that
Manchester City
entire
extra credit.
time that those tactics were being used. They were down a man.
I
They've been
know.
down a man the whole
And-
second half.
Yeah, and that's my point. It's like I don't think it's necessarily right what happened to Arsenal. I'm just saying that depending on the refs that you get, shit like that can happen. But I don't think it's necessarily right either.
It does.
But-
To me, it seemed very sketchy, especially just with the whole red card of setting that up with Trossard, because after showing the replay, he was going for the ball. He wasn't trying to hit the guy that he ran into. He was going for the ball. That was and even the announcers were like, this is a legitimate soccer play. This isn't worthy of a yellow card.
Right. No, I mean I agree with
It
that
just-
too.
I don't know. The fix is in.
Well, it's just
fix is it.
amazing now, and we're talking about twice in 3 weeks roughly, where a red card is a factor in an Arsenal game. That was a red card on Declan Rice in the Brighton game.
Yep.
And then now we have this controversy against Manchester City, which is obviously had a ton more eyeballs on
Both
it. But
games
still.
were on the road. They were not at Emirates Stadium. They were both on the road.
Correct. Yes. Yes. I would say the only good thing is that you're still fourth in the table, but I think probably
It's early.
What's
The
going to-
season's early.
what's going to suck
Season's
is
early.
this is a game that you'll probably, if they lose by a point or two in the final
This is a
table.
game to look back
this is-
at, and this is a game to look back at that it could be if it's close like it was last season with Man City, Liverpool, and Arsenal all together. This is a game you'll look back at later in the season and go, okay, this is one that really bit us in the butt.
Right.
They should have won this. There's no reason why they shouldn't have won this game.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's as bad, but again, I mean, fucking Brighton game 2, I mean, that wasn't good either. But yeah, this Man City one, especially look, Brighton, they're a decent team. I think they've overachieved, but they're not going to compete for an EPL title. Man City and Arsenal will. And so, you just, if you lose, just hope it's not by like a point or two, because you'll be thinking about this for the rest of the year.
As we're in the EPL, what the fuck happened to West Ham? Holy shit.
I don't know. Well,
they are very, if things keep going like they're going right now, they're going to get regulated.
The problem is that West Ham overachieved last year.
They've overachieved for
they achieved that
2
much.
years.
Yes, and letting
Declan Rice go was terrible for them.
Oh, that's devastating.
Thank you, West Ham.
Yeah, right. And so you have a situation where, West Ham is, they grossly overachieved, and frankly, I don't think the goaltending isn't there. They don't have a very solid defense, and frankly, all of a sudden now West Ham doesn't have any goal scorers. Last year they could at least put goals on the board. They've only scored 5 this entire season.
Been pitiful.
And so I'm not saying they'll get relegated, but when you're only scoring 5 goals, you're certainly entertaining that possibility.
They were getting close last year, and this year is not, unless they turn some things around. I'm not saying they're going to be, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. And, a team that's been, or 2 teams rather, that have been really flirting with relegation for a while, and I think it actually might finally happen, is Everton and Wolverhampton. They've been on
Wolverhampton looks putrid this year.
Yes, and they can't score or defend.
Anything. And games I've watched them, it's been terrible.
Yeah, and again, but Everton the last 2 years, I don't know, they've been like 17th or 16th. I don't know how they've been able to survive, but at least Wolverhampton, they've been in a spot to where, I mean, they're not competing for an EPL title, but they're not getting threatened to get relegated. But
fun fact: first team I saw when picking my team, I saw Wolverhampton. I was like, "Oh, the Wolves, cool! I might go for them." And then right after that, I scrolled up and saw the cannon on Arsenal. I was like, "Oh no, I got to go for a cannon over Wolves." I was that close to being a Wolverhampton fan.
Got lucky.
Yeah, saw the cannon. Thank goodness for that. I saw the cannon.
Yeah, and I think the main thing is that with Wolverhampton, it's just they're not getting any young players anymore. So
nope.
If you're not doing that, then you're not going to hang with the big boys.
I think that's all the English Premier League. Our fans can.
Yeah.
So I get
to finish this out then.
Yeah, but that Arsenal finish was just
bullshit.
Yeah,
it was bull fucking shit. That's what it was. It was bullshit. I'm gonna say it. Bullshit.
Someone's a little salty.
By the way, one real quick thing, very, very quick. The White Sox came back and won tonight. They're 37 and 120.
Hey.
So if they can get,
we need a 6-game win streak, otherwise they live in futility.
Correct. They need to win 5 more games to pass the 62 Mets.
I hope they do.
Oh no! We all want to see this.
I really, truly hope that they are the worst team ever.
Futility.
They deserve it.
they deserve it, and
They
I
do
hope it
deserve.
happens.
They deserve all of the badness coming to them. Yes, they
Yeah.
do.
Yes, 100%.
All right. Well, do I get to finish this out now then? Now that
Go for it.
Jeff gone his
Go
rant?
for it. All you. All you.
Well, I don't have much. I just wanted to give a reminder to everyone about the Victory Plus app for the Stars. You can watch their games for free using the Victory Plus app this year. No more volleys. Hallelujah.
Give a cheer there.
Mhm.
Can't wait.
You got
I
to.
plan on downloading the Victory app so I can watch the Stars up here as much as I can. And
Yeah.
I wish that they would play the Penguins in Pittsburgh on any day but like a Tuesday at 7 p.m. because my son wants to go to root on the Stars, and it's like, oh, it's a school day.
Right. Like,
And
yeah, another day, bud.
But that's
Yes, this is going to be interesting because the Stars are kind of the first volunteer, the first one brave enough to go this route, and as far
Yep.
as free free hockey, and just free sports on a
let's
streaming
talk
app.
about the Mavericks joining in on this as well too,
Yes, very true.
Yeah,
which I hope they do.
man, I don't know if they had the guts to do that. Maybe.
We'll have to see the
They
new.
had the new ownership.
Yeah, I think the
don't
main.
Cuban would have the guts to do it, but I think the new ownership may.
The only thing is so that the Stars. Well, yeah, maybe so. I think the main thing is with the Mavericks right now, they're looking to, get gambling legalized in Texas, and then that arena will not only be you get to play or you get to watch basketball, but you also get to gamble and bet on sports. I think that's
I
the
think
main
that's gonna
thing
be-
for the
that's their main focus right now.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
So I think if they by joining in on the Victory app and getting free games out there, I think to them, okay, yeah, that gives us goodwill with the
Yeah.
voters and with the people around here. I think that would help them in their major want of legalized gambling. That's a sign of goodwill they could sign off over to Maverick fans to be able to build that.
Yeah, and also
Very true.
too, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised sooner or later if you'd be able to bet via the app, via the Victory Plus app. There'll be links too.
Oh, I'm sure you will.
Yep.
It'll happen at some point. The way with all MGM and everything else is going over to the app, doing the gambling on your phone. That's just
Exactly.
the way it's going to happen. The way that it is.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But I am looking forward to it because I cannot wait to watch more Stars games because I am so ready.
Yeah, I mean, and again, the Stars are the guinea pig on this, so we
Mhm.
shall see if this works out. Or, I mean, I think it'll be great. It's just whether or not they could. I mean, it's all about if they can make money on it. Simple as that.
That's what it always comes down to. All right. Do you guys have any other sport topics you wanted to cover tonight? Because I think we've hit just about everything.
Yeah, I'm good.
I missed out on Live Golf in Carrollton this week, and I apologize.
Did you not go?
No, I didn't go.
I actually was invited by my buddy JB. He had a guys' weekend that they went to Live and then went to the Cowboy game as well. And with the epic loss there, I'm kind of glad that I was unable to make it.
Yeah,
Right.
the team.
I'm just
the
gonna
Australian-
blame the loss on him. So
The Australians won the team.
You got to keep it on Jerry. It's all Jerry's fault.
We always know it's Jerry's fault. I just got to add
Mhm.
additional blame to make myself feel better.
Yeah, exactly. And
Fair
Jerry
enough.
counts on that.
All right. Well, that was another wonderful conversation. We had a little bit of disagreement, mainly on my part because of how angry I was. Oh, another great conversation and another good time. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Want to let you know to reach out to our social media platforms. Please like and subscribe. Please let us know if there's any topics you want us to talk about on our next session. But other than that, for Caleb Culver, for Jeff Amos, this is Chris Porter. But I thank you all, and we'll join you on the next round. Cheers.
Catch it in.